Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Nonsense Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale. Another great episode with a lot of interesting developments went down this episode. I'm just going to break everything down bit by bit. I mean, first of all, Moose and Mitch, and it turned out that they survived. Completely caught me off guard because I was so certain it would just be Mitch just because she was so she was farther away from the gunfire, but it turns out Moose is alive too, luckily. And it was a combination of what I figured that there'd be out of that situation, it would lead Archie to find out oh man, it's the same dude, he's going around killing everyone. But it's also because he announces it himself, because there is a letter that gets kind of almost a manifesto that was sent to the Coopers to kind of publish, and basically it's the Black Hood describing himself as oh yeah, I attacked Fred, I killed Grundy, I'm the one that attacked the two kids who were off getting high. It makes himself seem like some avenging angel, trying to attack people who've committed crimes. In Fred's case, adultery. In the kids' case, them doing drugs, getting high. And then obviously in Grundy's case, the whole inappropriate relationship she has with her students. Now, whether that's 100% the truth or not, I'm not sold on it. There's a deeper connection here. I feel like that's all got to be some red herring. It might actually be the truth. Maybe this is some fanatic who's just trying to take justice in their own hand, or something, some religious nut job or something. But I'm thinking that's all some front. Maybe even the killer himself didn't even write that. Maybe whoever he's working for. Which I'm still leaning at Hiram, because it seems because to me this episode really showed you how much of a instigator he is, and how easily he pushes and pulls people. Because you have Hermione telling Veronica, don't move things so fast, take things slow, you kind of expect things too much at once with your dad. So just take things slow, introducing him to your friends, that's fine and dandy, but take things slow. Don't try to make up all for it, trying to oh, make sure that your dad's all okay, and that, he can be well adjusted to new things, that, there's no more lurking in the shadows type of thing. But then she has a conversation later on with Veronica's the fact of the matter is, Mom, you're talking like Dad's dangerous. Is he dangerous? And Hermione doesn't answer. And then she's like, well, I thought so, and let's not forget who brought him back into our lives, Mom. So it's something I brought up last episode too, as a possibility. It's maybe Hermione is a lot more into all this stuff. But this episode kind of made me, especially the way he talked to her, yeah, don't try to poison the well with my relationship with our daughter just because you have problems with her. Hermione's biggest issue is because I think legitimately she is trying to protect her daughter. She's trying to protect Veronica from Hiram, because she realizes what kind of man he is. Because it's she welcomed him back into their lives, not probably because she wanted to, or she believed, oh, he's a good person. She did not believe all the things she said. It's just the fact of the matter is she knows who he is. Hiram doesn't seem like the type of guy that you say no to. It seems like whatever he wants, he gets, and you just go along with it. It's because Hermione's not trying to be on his bad side, and yeah, she gets that he loves Veronica, but I guess she feels if she makes the wrong move, he'll try and take Veronica away from her and kind of push her on the out. So she kind of has to play her role. It seems like Veronica doesn't really see that. Maybe Veronica, it's hard to say whether Veronica's got her own game plan, because I don't know whether it is her taking what Jughead said last episode of being oh, giving her father a chance. So I don't know whether it's that, or whether she is playing him, trying to get close to him, to be in the inner circle and kind of be behind those closed doors to figure everything out. But I mean, his manipulation runs even deeper when you look at the whole situation with Archie, because he kind of tells, because Archie ends up starting a group known as the Red Circle. Interestingly enough, out of curiosity, during the commercial breaks, I actually looked it up. It actually is connected to an Archie thing, because it's an imprint, company that's within the Archie comics publication thing. Actually, I think more recent years they changed their name to Dark Circle Comics or something like that. It seems like they focus, from what I was reading a little bit, I skimmed from what I was reading a little bit. Basically, it focuses on more superhero Archie comic storylines, but this particular run, at least dark comic wise, focused on a more darker relationships and aspects between the characters and stuff like that, compared to most Archie superhero stuff, which I guess that kind of coincides with kind of what Riverdale is. It takes those Archie characters and puts them in a more gritty, not gritty, but a darker, teen drama in a sense. Like I said, as I kept repeating, and as most people describe it as, Archie meets a little bit of Twin Peaks, essentially, so, and that's just kind of an interesting thing. It's like, because I figured it had to be like a real thing. And so for it to be in a thing like that, I don't know. It was kind of fascinating because it did seem like it had superheroes on it, but nevertheless, that was just kind of an interesting thing. But it seems like they've kind of taken more to like, hey, we're gonna post around town, we're gonna check on people. It's like, no, we're not going to get violent, even though Archie's got a gun and everything, but he's keeping that close to the vest because he brought it up to Fred. But Fred's like, no, we're not doing that. Understandably so, because Fred sees how Archie is, and he knows that if he tells Archie, oh, that's okay, like Archie's already on edge, and also it's like as a parent, he's the one that should be worrying about that, not Archie. Archie, you're a high schooler, let me, the parent, handle this. So there's that side of things as well. To the point the sheriff, Keller, tries to shut that down, but the principal actually backs up Archie. I don't know whether that's of his own volition or was there kind of like a little nudging in that direction, but going as far as be like, oh, the Red Circle, that's just a club. So they ended up going out on patrol, and Ethel was being followed by a van. It's like she talked about the fact that it circled back like 3 times. It's so interesting. Like, well, 2 things, just like the whole setup of them like going on night patrol and stuff. Like, it's really them kind of kicking up the whole vigilante angle, which you can immediately see the problem. There's going to be problems that arise from that. Like, they're going to jump to some conclusions because arguably, they're becoming a gang right now, which is interesting considering there are already gangs in this Riverdale universe, that being the Southside Serpents. So it's like, how's that going to mesh up? Granted, they've kind of come back to Riverdale because of just how everything's settled, like the whole Hiram situation. So obviously that's connected. Alice made those connections like last episode of basically everything kind of coming together, working kind of in tandem. They seem like the drugs and the serpents coming back into town, and Hiram being there kind of contributing to like Pop's diner and stuff like that. It's like all those seem like 3 separate things when in actuality they're one and the same problem possibly. I mean, you even see that aspect even more at the end of the episode with Hiram's thoughts of like, oh, this guy rules by fear. It's like, oh, you should do the same thing. And so everyone else has masks on except for Archie. And it's just like, we're coming for you. You can't hide from us. We're going to capture you. And it's like, wow, like you were legitimately doing some gang related, like you look like a damn gang in the way you're just like handling that situation. So. Also, a quick note about that whole situation. I was talking about something else. The actress who played Ethel, I didn't realize this when I was watching last season, but subsequently I was rewatching Stranger Things. No, I found it out before I started rewatching Stranger Things because I just came across it. Did not realize that's the same actress who played Barbara in Stranger Things. Same actress. It's like, wow, you look like almost like, in retrospect, it's like, how can I not tell that was you? I mean, your hair was shorter and you had glasses and your attire was a little different. Obviously, that was to fit more the 80s attire, but still, it's just kind of, I also saw her in something else too. It was like more recently. I think there was a movie, like, was it Wish Upon? It was like a movie about wishes and stuff like that. I'm not trying to go too heavy. I think she was also in that too. But going back to it, you have that look with the whole Red Circle situation. You have Hiram kind of smiling, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, like whether he's going to try and manipulate them for purpose. Like I said, it seems like he's setting this situation up because he's trying to get Riverdale afraid, but at the same time give them kind of a beacon of hope, that being a Red Circle. Because Hiram also seems like that guy that takes every opportunity. It's like, oh, he's got the whole town being afraid, but he's also, built up vigilantes / superheroes in a sense. Obviously, they're just kids, but still, he built them up, and it's like, now he can probably profit from both. And it's like, oh yeah, here I am helping the Black Hood terrify the place. And then also, I mean, it makes you wonder, did he, like, I'll finish my thought. And now he's like, oh, I'm gonna back up. I believe so strongly in these kids, and and then it'll look like, oh, he's there to be a pillar of the community and stuff like that. Kind of put himself in a more positive light, despite to kind of counteract everything everyone already knows about him or believes they know about him. But then again, there's another side of me that's kind of like, did he do this all on purpose? Is this kind of like setting Archie up, like put him on his pedestal just so he can ultimately fall and burn out? Is this some like weird twisted means of getting revenge against him and his family? It's like, oh, first you go after Fred, for the whole having a relationship with your wife, because it seemed like Hiram is like I said, like you don't say no to him. And it seems like more so like it's an arrangement rather than an actual marriage. But then, like, going back to what I said before, he's an opportunist. opportunist. So seeing Archie react the way he did, maybe he's like, oh, I can use this as an opportunity to make this even greater. Like I said, there has to be some other subplot. Like maybe, like I said, there's some, obviously this is connected to the jingle jangle and everything. Like I said, it must be like booming business in some shape or form. Like, Hiram's kind of got his hands in all the different pies. I'm sure a lot of, definitely a lot of the stuff with Cliff, 'cause we still don't know who his supplier was, I mean, it seemed like they were at odds, but probably at one point in time, they were business partners in this grand scheme of things, but then they kind of shifted. Like, maybe Cliff got a little greedy, Hiram got a little more controlling. I don't know. So maybe messing with Archie is a little bit of a byproduct of that. Like I said, we'll just kind of have to wait to see to get answers about that. But you do have Veronica wanting to, I think I brought it up earlier, the whole wanting to be closer to the business and stuff like that. No more Lodges kind of working in the shadows, which you see Hermione is not too happy about. She doesn't say anything, but she knows not to say anything in front of Hiram. So I'm very curious to see what that situation is all about. I mean, to be fair, we already kind of saw last episode, like people who kind of talk up or about him behind his back, especially when it comes to Veronica. We saw what happened to Smithers. He just kind of got, it's like, oh yeah, he's taking care of his mom, blah, 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 whatever that's about. So you have Polly leaving town because she's like, yeah, I'm like the biggest sinner. I'm an unwed mom having a child with my cousin. So it's like, I don't think you're one of the target. Like I said, it was just like, these were meant to be like big public statements. Like I said, red herrings. They have to be like, look over here while everything else is actually happening over here. So I'm curious to see where that all goes, but it's kind of sad because Allison, Polly still didn't get along because Polly's like, you put this out there, even though the mayor and Sheriff Killer were like, Coopers do not do this. Did I ever make that comparison, that thing last season? I don't think I ever did. Machin Amick, the actress who plays Alice, having her last name being Cooper, her family's last name being Cooper, and Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks, which, there's the whole like Twin Peaks situation because she reprised her roles. That whole thing. Nevertheless, because they publish it, which, you get both sides of it. It's like publishing it, it's good because you're letting everyone know that this is like a serious threat. It also adds validity to what Archie had brought up before, because before it's like, oh, you're paranoid. It's like, not that paranoid when it turns out he's actually right, that a lot of the stuff is connected. So, but at the same time, it's like you're striking fear. Everyone's paranoid. Everybody's on edge. Hence why the red circle was created. So, like I said, I'm just waiting for that to kind of blow up in Archie's face. Not just his face, everyone's face, because they're going to think they got the right guy. They're going to attack their own guy. Especially because, even if they're not armed like Archie is, which he's not letting anyone know that he's armed. He's like, oh, I got this wooden bat. And you have Reggie being like, yeah, I got this, like, it's for his tires. I'm blanking on a word right now, and I'm too dumb to think about what I'm trying to say. So, nevertheless, they don't have like the arsenal Archie is, which that's definitely going to blow up in his face some shape or form. So I hope it's not to the extent of like he shoots the wrong person or has to shoot anybody. I hope it's a situation where he doesn't have to use it at all. But that's on that side of things. There's also the whole like Kevin, Betty, and Cheryl situation, because Kevin was kind of sneaking around with guys, just kind of like meeting up with them and everything. And that, it's just kind of a thrill, like, oh, let's just meet up. Like, oh yeah, kind of random hookups type of situation. These aren't people he knows. He just kind of sets up things like, oh, you're out here waiting? Oh yeah, like, I'm here too. Like, which super dangerous, which Betty, as like one of his best friends, is kind of like, yo, be careful about that. Cheryl kind of puts her 2 cents in, which, when you actually break it down, like, Cheryl's very insightful, because she's basically like, Kevin has his own issues. Kind of learn a little bit more about Kevin too, because he had acne, he was kind of on a larger side, but now he's gotten shape and fit, but basically he's still kind of got a complex, and so he's trying to compensate because he wants validation. And just like, oh, he's hot and whatnot, that he's wanted and he's loved type of thing. I mean, because his past 2 relationships, at least within the confines of the show, haven't really panned out. That being Moose, like, they had a little thing together. I mean, that only lasted until they found Jason, so, which I guess is kind of implying Moose might be bi in this whole situation, I'm guessing. And then Yakeem turns out to be a criminal, covering up bodies and stuff like that, which is like, I knew he was a serpent, just didn't know how much of a bad boy he was. Not bad boy in a good way, bad boy in a bad way. So, interestingly enough, though, Moose did talk to Kevin. He was like, I understand why you're doing what you're doing, essentially, because it's like people like us, we kind of like don't worry about the danger because at least even for a momentarily moment in time, we can be ourselves because Kevin's kind of alone in the situation because it's like, I mean, at least to our knowledge, there's not really any other gay people in Riverdale. It's like everyone's just kind of like oh, this is like your white picket fence, normal all-American town. And it's just like, he doesn't really fit in. And it's like, that's why he's doing this because he wants to fit in, which, you know, Betty's words kind of get to him later on when he goes try and does it. And, he thinks about the guy in the car stabbing him. It's like, yeah, I'm good. And the guy's like, stop being a tease and get in the car. Which is like, okay, you definitely want to avoid that, dude. But I mean, it ends up causing a problem later on when Betty went looking for him and ended up talking to the sheriff about it, which the sheriff was understandable about it. He was like, hey, like, we haven't really talked about things. There's a lot of stuff we haven't talked about. So, I mean, we never really know how he felt about Kevin being gay. It's not like it's a secret, but it's just not something that was openly talked about. But now it's like, oh, we'll talk about it now, you know, because I don't want you to be in danger considering everything that's happening. Which now that whole situation, because Betty did that, Kevin told her to back down, like, don't judge me, because you get to live your life and enjoy being you. You don't have to worry about being judged or being happy or not having to be yourself. You can explore your sexuality. I'm not in that same situation, you know, so. Which is interesting about the whole circumstance, too, is because it almost seems like Cheryl was trying to purposely break them up because they are such good friends. And now it's like, because Cheryl went out of her way to tell, you know, Betty that, to kind of sting it to Betty, almost like, oh, you really don't know your friend that well. And then she kind of brought Betty in on it, like, oh, I saw Kevin doing this. And it's just like, I mean, it could be her kind of giving a middle finger to Betty for like the way Betty blackmailed her like last episode. Could be a contributing factor, or just it could be fun for Cheryl. That's the thing. You never 100% know what's going through Cheryl's mind, why she does half the things that she does. And this might even lead to a situation of her and Kevin becoming a lot closer, just, you know, once again, kind of to spite Betty. That might be the ultimate plan. Because the fact of the matter is, when you actually break it down, Cheryl still doesn't have her clique like she did last season. Her clique, I mean, at least so far we've seen this season, like her clique, like she had like her two friends that were with her. They're not by her side this season, so she still seems like she's Queen Bee, but I don't know, like I said, after last season, it seems like Cheryl is not quite the same. I think she's a little, I'd go as far as probably saying maybe a little broken. I mean, to be fair, after everything that she's been through and the Blossom family's been through, you can't blame her. Like, anyone would be kind of a little messed up and broken. After it was all said and done, so. And then finally, there's also the other side with Jug. Jug going to Southside. This is actually like within the confines of the show. I think this is like our first time really seeing him be at the school like for an extended period of time. He tries to keep his head low, tries to avoid being around the serpents because it's like, okay, you helped me out and everything. I appreciate that, but I don't want to have anything to do with you guys. Except for one serpent in particular, Tony, who seems to have his back. He starts working on the paper at that school called the Red and Black. That's kind of interesting, considering, like, you know, well, I guess that's the school's colors in comparison to Riverdale, which are the blue and gold. That's the name of the newspaper him and Betty were working with, so there's that. He tried to keep to himself, but he ended up getting beat up. Everyone's kind of saying, like, oh, it's the ghoulies. I don't think so. My mind is thinking it's got to be the serpents who did it, especially the dude in particular, Sweet Pea, because it's like, oh, you asked for help and you spit in our face. It's like, oh, we'll show him. He'll come crying to us when the time comes. Not in some twisted way, not unless it was like Tony's idea or something like that. I don't think so, because I think amongst anyone, she's the one that's kind of like, okay, let, you know, Joe kind of do his own thing. We won't bother him unless he asks for our help. So, you know, maybe it really was the guys known as the ghoulies who end up apparently are the people who are actually selling Jingle Jangle, because it's actually coming from Southside and now it's moving its way over to Riverdale. Like I said, just, you know, maybe, I don't know. It's like, oh, the serpents aren't into the whole drug thing. At least, you know, at least that's what FP's kind of made it about. Which I finally found out what FP stand for. I forgot the P part, but like F stands for like Forsyth or something like that. I was like, huh, maybe they brought that up at the beginning of the series, but I don't remember anyone ever calling Jughead by his full name, because even like his dad, everyone just referred to him as FP. So I was just like, huh. But nevertheless, this situation did lead to him kind of siding more with the serpents by the end of it. And it's something interesting that his monologue, well, you know, yeah, his monologue kind of says like, I don't think it's called a monologue if it's at nearing the end. Is it the VO? We'll just call it the voiceover. Was basically like, oh yeah, like happy endings don't always have happy endings, you know? This isn't that fairy tales have you believe that there's such thing as happy endings, but the fact of the matter is there aren't any happy endings essentially. So now he's rolling more with the serpents. That's just going to cause problems, especially for Betty, who's worried about him getting mixed up in that war in the first place. And then on top of that, like what this means going forward, you know, because he was originally going to write a story about the ghoulies and the whole drug thing, which are like, why would they come at? Well, Tony's explanation at the beginning was like, well, they're going to come after you if they think you're by yourself because they probably know that he's a serpent, but he's on his own. Or maybe it's just because of the fact of the matter is of him being on his own that they'd come after him anyway. But I don't think it was the ghoulies that got him. I really believe it was serpents, but we'll see. He ends up lying to Betty about it. Makes it seem like it was something that happened with him on his motorcycle, telling Tony not to say anything either. So, an interesting thing about the whole Tony situation, I think I brought this up before, but it's something I think I might have referenced it in one of the earlier episodes. But something I'm going into this season knowing is that basically I remember reading some like headlines and stuff like that, basically saying that maybe they're going to throw a wrench in the whole. I forgot what their couple name is. Is it Jetty? Is that it? Jughead and Betty's ship name. I don't remember. But it's like there was going to be some wrenches thrown in their relationship. I particularly think that's going to be Tony. Because Tony, you know, they represent the two different sides of Jughead. Betty, kind of like his life in Riverdale, you know, just kind of like that all-American, like, you know, white picket fence town, like I said, quiet white picket fence town aspect. And then you have the other side of him, other side with Tony, who represents the more serpent side of him, that just kind of like across the tracks, bad neighborhood kid. You know, it also fits into his whole loner persona and stuff like that. You know, it kind of runs in the family, being a serpent's in his blood and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be the direction they take it. Because for that, made it seem like it was like going. It sounded like more like from what I was reading before, it sounded like it was going to be a person in particular, not just the story events leading to them kind of having a rocky relationship this season. But maybe, you know, both situations are true. Maybe like both situations of being a person as well as a story kind of being one and the same. So, like I said, overall, a great episode. I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good